What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Martial Arts Monday review. This week we're reviewing an unusual one, a film starring Carl Scott. And I actually found this one on YouTube, and I wanted to watch it because it has Carl Scott. I've actually, just a few hours ago, you may see this a few weeks from when I'm recording it, but I just reviewed today The Soul Brothers of Kung Fu, which is one I remember from my childhood, starring Bruce Lee and Carl Scott. So this is one of 4 films that Carl Scott made. So I decided I got to watch the other 3. So I watched one of them today, Sun Dragon, a.k.a. A Hard Way to Die, from 1979. And he made 2 films with Bruce Lee and 2 with Billy Chong, interestingly enough. So this is like Billy Chong and Carl Scott, both getting about equal time. But the Carl Scott character is the sort of the main protagonist on a quest for vengeance in this film, set in the Old West. I think. I don't know. I didn't see a car, anything. It seemed like it was set in the Old West. Some establishing shots of the Grand Canyon and cattle farms and things like that. Somebody at one point says something about the island. I'm like, what the hell island are you on? You were just in the Grand Canyon. I don't know. You know, they ride horses. Some of the clothing looks a little too modern. Some of the bars that had, the alcohol bottles, I'm not sure if they had the same J&B bottles back then as they do now. Whatever. They wanted to sort of give you that idea, I guess. Towards the end, there's some mining equipment in the background. It looks way too modern. And but I don't know if it was supposed to be in the Old West or not. It really doesn't matter because it has that kind of a Western feel. And it was kind of billed as the first Kung Fu film filmed in America. Now, if you go back to I guess it didn't make it here till 1981. If you go back to the 1981 episode of Siskel and Ebert, where they review Gallipoli, that's when Gallipoli was out with Mel Gibson. This was one of Roger Ebert's Dogs of the Week. He kind of laughed it off and made fun of a particular scene where there's a wounded guy, and they take him to a Chinese doctor, and he like pummels the guy, strikes him in the back and everything, and because he has to get the blood away from his heart. Naturally, I don't know why Roger Ebert didn't know that. So, Roger Ebert, this is the same guy that gave John Carpenter's movie The Thing a bad review and said, don't see it. So, whatever, dude. But this is a great movie, It really had an interesting feel. A lot of the voices were different. Some of the music, I don't know if it was original music, but it had kind of a Western feel. Kind of a unique film, and everybody in it does good. There's a number of Western actors in this that seem to be very skilled. There's one familiar face of a kind of a bully in the beginning I recognized. May have even been in Fist of Fury with Bruce Lee. I'm trying to remember. I think he was. But then the other main bad guy, who's like a Western guy, a white guy, he's very good, very menacing. He's got a scar on his face, of course. He has throwing knives. And essentially what happens is you've got some bad guys in the beginning. They've stolen some money. They come up to this house. I guess it's like on the frontier. They say, oh, we need to buy your house. And the father's like, no. And they come in and they beat everybody up. And they make the guy sign away the house. But then they kill him anyway and hurt some of the siblings and the mom. And the Carl Scott character, who's the son, he runs away. Well, he eventually meets this guy, Billy Chong, who's kind of just walks into town, meets an old friend. He's kind of working in a bar. There's an early scene where they see some fist fighting, some gambling, on fist fights. And so he says, I can do that. So he jumps in, and of course he kicks some ass, and he wins some money, and he gains, some people get jealous of him. They come back a few times to challenge him. And essentially it's these 2 characters trying to help each other. The Carl Scott character trying to get revenge on these guys that murdered some of his family. Along the way, he meets an old kung fu master who teaches him some techniques, and of course he has some practice fights with Billy Chong. They throw a lot in here. I mean, the bad guys, there's a whole cycle where Billy Chong's not in it for about 20 minutes. But the bad guys actually go at each other and have some fights with each other, which I'm not sure about that, because then there's fewer people to get revenge on, but it kind of worked out anyway because some of the people that organized these fights came back. They brought some samurai with them, okay, with samurai swords and everything, so you got that fight. At one point, one of the guys comes in, he's got a native person with him dressed in not the most convincing Native American gear you've ever seen. So that's kind of a crazy fight. You know, all the fight scenes in this are really good. The master teaches the Carl Scott character how to fight with a staff, or there's lots of fights with a staff, and he teaches them about the 4 different lethal pressure points. Gee, do you think that's going to come into play at the end of the movie? Of course. And there's some other guys, like there's a beardless Chuck Norris looking guy at one point. He's with the bad guys, and they're stacking up ice blocks, and they're like, "Hey, that ice is ready." And he breaks it, and I'm thinking, oh, now he's going to be like one of the guys that they fight at the end, but he never showed up again. Maybe there's a longer version. Maybe they intended that he would come back. I don't really know. That was a little weird. But there's, even though they kind of throw like it's very episodic, it still has a narrative feel, and eventually they track down the bad guy and get the revenge, and it's really good. Above average fight scenes, really good stuff. Lots of really good kicks. There's some really interesting like up close shots where you see, you know, him taking his fingers and hitting different joints, and you're seeing what the effects of that are. You know, so this isn't like, they don't really talk about different forms that much, but it's not really like a basher movie either, where it's just like wailing away. There's a little more technique involved here. The bad guy at one point gets blocked, and then he makes a fist and he does like a Bruce Lee 2-inch punch on a guy and knocks him down. So there's some pretty good up close shots inserted into the action. Some pretty good weapons, knives, swords, staffs. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. This is really interesting. And by the way, and I did watch it on YouTube. I don't actually have a physical copy. By the way, the 4 points are the temple, the chest. Damn it. Oh, the temple, the chest, the groin, and you guys tell me what the 4th lethal point on the body is, because it's probably not what you think. See if you can guess in the comments below. I'm guessing no one's ever heard of this film, Sundragon. If you have, let me know in the comments below. By the way, Billy Chong and the director of this film would collaborate several more times, including on Kung Fu Zombie. So that's on this collaboration here called Kung Fu Zombies, which Encyclopedia Joe from the Mad Bloods channel just added to his collection recently. So Billy Chong does a really good job in this. Born in Indonesia, he's still active today. You know, very solid martial arts actor himself. Okay, there it is, guys. Have you seen this? Have you heard of it? What are your thoughts? And tell me what you think that 4th magical lethal point is in the comments below, and I'll check you next time. Later.